If you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you'll know what I mean when I say I had a Rich Dad Poor Dad experience when I was buying my house. I actually switched lenders halfway through the process. It was pretty scary, but it's ultimately what had to happen. At the time, my wife and I were only married for a couple of months, and I had just gotten a job at a credit union, and they offered a discount if you went through them to get your mortgage. So I submit the application, and we get assigned a loan officer. This loan officer had a really impressive resume. They'd been in the industry for 20 plus years. They had a lot of experience and they did a lot of business. However, as first time home buyers, my wife and I need a lot of hand holding going through the process. And unfortunately, we didn't get that. He would answer our questions, but he didn't answer the questions that we didn't know to ask. We didn't know what we didn't know. On top of that, he just wasn't available. Anything after 5:01 p.m. on a weekday, good luck getting a hold of him. But the biggest issue was that nobody ever told us about closing costs. I'm a veteran, so I qualify for the VA loan, which doesn't require a down payment. And when you hear marketing about VA loans, you hear all the time about no down payment required, $0 down. That's great and all, but nobody ever talks about closing costs. So when we finally went under contract, we're looking at our loan estimate and we see the fee sheet, and it tells us that we need an extra $3,000 that we didn't have. At that point, my realtor recommended that we reach out to one of her lender partners, and we had a conversation, and she made it seem like she could make it work. At the time, she had only been in lending for a couple of years and wasn't doing a ton of business, but she was doing pretty well for herself. Ultimately, she was able to issue some lender credits in exchange for a slightly higher interest rate, and we were able to cover the gap enough to get us to closing. But that's not all. In addition to making the numbers work, she was also exactly what we needed communication wise. She really held our hand through the process and let us know about next steps and what to expect right after we do this and that, and kind of shone a light on the process. Shined a light, shone a light, shined? Mm. Is it shined or shown? Think of it like this. Let's say you're at your friend's house, it's nighttime, the lights are off, and you're trying to get to the party in the backyard. But you don't know where the furniture is. You don't know where you're going to bump into stuff. My first loan officer basically told us to go, and if we had questions about whether there was a couch in front of us or whatever, then he would say yes or no. But the second loan officer went over to the kitchen, turned on the light, and then came back and showed us the way to get to the backyard to get to our party. I know it's a weird analogy, but it gets the point across. Ultimately, she made us feel really comfortable with the process. We felt like we were informed, we had an idea what was going on, and we knew what the next steps were. It was a great experience. At the time, I was in my senior year of getting my business degree, and I was already kind of thinking about what I wanted to do with my future. If I wanted to get into financial advising or become a CPA or whatever, I was really good with numbers, but I was also really good with people, so I wasn't sure what to do there. She really inspired me to follow in her footsteps, and so on the day of closing, I asked her what it took to become a loan officer, and she gave me the steps, and 6 months later, I was working for her firm. Ultimately, I learned a lot of lessons going through both experiences, both what not to do and what to do. I know it sounds cheesy, but I really can't see myself doing anything else. So if you or somebody you know is looking at getting a VA loan and utilizing your VA benefits, hit me up. Let me provide you the same experience that I was provided when I was buying my first house.